How's it going, folks? Planning out some taro today. Thought I'd bring you along and show you how we're popping it in the patch around here. Some's going into a soil wicking barrel system, some in a wicking bed out the front, and we're going to pop a few small little rhizomes in the aquaponics just to see how it goes in there. Now, taro is a staple crop, starchy crop of the Pacific region. It's also grown in other parts of the world now. It's a pretty much one of the staple carbohydrate crops of the tropics. It really does like that warmer weather. It likes, you know, up around 24 degrees or higher, or what's that, about 77 Fahrenheit. So it's something that, yeah, it doesn't grow too well in the cooler regions, especially if you have frost. Definitely doesn't like frost. This is the first time I'm growing it, so I've had to do a little bit of research on it. It looks like it could be something that we could use quite a bit roasted. We have a few meals where we use roasted veggies here, also chips. The girls are always after some chips, and I've been told, or fries depending on where you live, and I've been told that they make really nice fries or chips, so that's something we're looking forward to trying. If we get adventurous, we might try and make some poi, which is an alcoholic beverage that they make from taro in the Pacific Islands. So apparently it's actually rather nutritious and even good for a help aid digestion, so it might be something we look into the future. Maybe not, we'll just wait and see. As for the types of taro we've got, I bought a couple of root sections from Green Harvest. They're a fantastic plant supplier down here in Australia, especially for us here in the subtropics, because they carry a lot of plants that are suited for our climate. They're also based here as well. And the second lot I'm planning out comes from a mate from Share the Seed. Ben, thank you very much, mate. He came around and brought us some katuk, also some Barbados cherry and a few other bits and pieces, and Queensland arrowroot and taro were a couple of the root crops he brought around. The variety we got from Green Harvest, by the way, is called Bun Long. It apparently likes a slightly warmer climate than what we have here, but the little root sections I popped into a root pouch are thriving at the moment, so I'm fairly confident it should do okay here. We're only, what, a couple of weeks into spring here at the moment, probably 3-4 weeks, and it's already taken off, as you'll see in a moment. So anyway, I'll get to it. We'll plan out the wicking barrels out the back here first with the two different types, and then we'll pop over to the aquaponics and then out the front to plan out the rest. So let's get to it. So we're just down here below our Tahitian lime, and this is the little system that the taro is going to be planted out in. It's basically an auto top-up wicking barrel system. This reservoir here is connected to a little float bucket which auto tops up the reservoir in these 3 wicking barrels. This first one's already been planted out actually a little bit earlier today. I popped 2 lots of ginger in there. Some we saved from our aquaponic harvest and some we saved from a soil harvest, so they've already been planted out. In the middle one there, I'm going to be planting the bunlong taro that we bought, and in the end one I'll plant a couple of the rhizomes that have already sprouted that Ben brought around. So this is the bunlong taro. I've had it in this root pouch now for a couple of months. We actually started it off in the middle of winter up the north side of the house, because we're on the southern hemisphere. We get all our sunlight from the north during winter, and it's actually taken off rather well. I thought I killed this little rhizome down here, but it's bounced back. This one here, it was sprouted in the packet when we received it, so it has done really well. So this is the soil that the taro is going out into. It's a blend of the existing soil that was in here and probably around about 40 litres of compost from the compost cage. The soil level had actually shrunk quite a bit in here. All I did was bring in the compost, gave it a bit of a mix around, and yeah, that's hopefully will enrich it enough that the taro will thrive in there. They are a fairly heavy feeder, so I will be coming along and giving it some compost tea from time to time when I do the ginger in the barrel next to it. Taro like a lot of moisture, so because this is on the auto top-up reservoir system, these barrels stay moist all the time unless I let the reservoir dry out for a couple of days, so they should be really happy in here. The pH, they really like a pH around about 5.5 to 7 from what I've read, so I'm hoping that this soil should do alright. I've actually lost my pH test kit, but everything else we've grown in this compost has done really well, so I'm not too concerned. So this here obviously is a little bit too big just to dig a hole and plant out, so what I'm going to do is remove some of the soil into this pouch here, so I can hopefully just drop that whole thing in. So I'm just squashing the sides of this pouch a bit just to loosen up the soil around the outside, and I'm just going to basically dig in and try and grab these rhizomes out. And their roots have gone all the way to the bottom. There we go. So pop them in there. Might actually try and raise these up a bit, try and scrape some of that soil in there. There we go. Just backfill with this compost, I think. Now I'm going to mound up around these plants as well a bit because the soil will settle in here over time. So there we go, there's the first one planted. So this is one of the rhizome sets that Ben brought around yesterday, and I'll be planting it in the barrel next to this one. As you can see, the stems are a lot greener on this one than the bunlong that I just planted out, so hopefully it will be a different variety. It'll be interesting to see how different ones stack up and how they cook up and taste. So these guys here are just going into the barrel next to it. I've already broken them apart. We've got two large ones and a small one. He can go out somewhere else in the patch, maybe the Aquaponics. So the barrel these guys are going into actually had yacon and a sweet potato volunteer growing in it. So we're probably going to end up with a couple of at least sweet potatoes sprouting in this barrel. For planting these guys out, I'm pretty much all going to just put them from the top, probably around about 30 to 40 mil or 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches below the surface. These leaves are just bent over a bit because of how they were sitting in the bag, I think. They should just straighten up all right. And that's pretty much all it, and just leave them be. I will give them a bit of a water in tonight, but they shouldn't really need it with the constant amount of water in the reservoir of these barrels. So I'll head over to the Aquaponics and I'll pop one or two of the rhizomes in one of the yellow barrels. So we're just behind the Aquaponics here, and we're at the Dutch barrels. These two barrels grew ginger for us last season. This end one over here has the kangkong. It's taken back off, and a volunteer warrigal green or New Zealand spinach, so ginger's actually going to be planted out in there later on today. Just over here in the other barrel though is where I'm going to put these two rhizomes. They're just two smaller ones. This one's just got a shoot, and this one's got a single leaf. Pretty easy to plant these guys out. So over here in the barrel, all I've done is just flattened out the clay, and I'm just going to dig some small holes, probably about the same, 30 to 40 mil or 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches deep, and just pop these rhizomes in. I've got a mate actually over in the Philippines, Mark. G'day Mark. He's grown them in his aquaponics system, and he's had some massive yields from them. So hopefully these won't grow quite as big as his, otherwise I will have to harvest them earlier. He had one plant that would easily take up this barrel, so just be interesting to see how they go. So there you go folks, there's a bit of a look at the rhizomes going into the barrels and the aquaponics. I also did duck out the front, and I planted out 4 rhizomes in one of the IBC wicking beds. It's the bed right up at the end corner of the front yard. It stays moist all the time, so I figured that's pretty much all the best spot out there to plant them. Also fed up the bed too with some compost from the compost cage, popped the rhizomes in, and then gave it a bit of a top dress with some horse manure I got from a cousin, thank you Ellen, and hopefully they'll do just as well as these ones out the back here. It is a bit of a sheltered spot, so it won't get a lot of direct sunlight all day long, but it should cop a bit of afternoon heat from the fence and that sort of thing, so with the amount of moisture I think they should do fairly well out there. But I suppose that is pretty much all it. I don't really know a lot about taro. This is the first time we've planted it, so I can't really give you much more information at this point. Feel free though to subscribe, and when I post a bit of an update on these guys in a couple of months time, you'll get a notification in your email to come along and suss out how they're growing. And I will also do a bit of a harvest clip and maybe a processing clip just showing you how we're using them. So all a bit of an adventure for us, and I'm sort of can't wait to harvest our first little lot and see how they go. If you do have any comments, questions or suggestions, feel free to pop them in the comments section below and I'll get back to you where I can. Yeah, if you're an experienced taro grower, I'd like to know how they've gone for you. Be really interesting to see how different people grow them. I know Mart Hale, g'day Mart, he grows them in root pouches on top of moist sand, so yeah, there's all manner of different way to grow them from what I've seen. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for coming along. I hope everyone is well and happy, and I'll catch you next clip. Cheers folks.